some other things that I've learned so far, on my job that just basically helps to keep my life a little bit at peace, I would say. So there we go. That's basically our 3 main key things that we're going to be talking about today. So first of all, Figma design systems. We're going to cover a few things. We're going to cover what's the atomic design. We're going to talk a little bit about design libraries, about templates, and a very awesome plugin in Figma called HTML2Design. So most important thing. So what is actually atomic design? So when you start working on the project, it's actually amazing if you spend some time in creating little components for your project. We call it design library. So design library consists out of atoms, molecules, organisms, templates, and pages. Sounds very like something into biology more than design, but you'll see it's quite simple. So atoms, what you can call atoms, you can call CTAs, call to actions, buttons. You can call them colors. You can call, basic thing, logos, some icons and things like that. Molecule is already a little bit of a more complex thing. So like, for example, you see here, you see a title, you see a button, you see an eyebrow. And an organism, you have a bit of even more complex structures. For example, here, you have a title, eyebrow, multiple CTAs, you have a visual, and slowly but surely you're building up basically your design library. So every atom in your library, so every little object will probably have multiple states. So for example, as an example here, you can have a simple call to action, but it can be a field type, it can have an icon trailing, it can have a background. You see like multiple colors and things like that. You can also have very complex libraries. So for example, I like to call them more like a playbook library, where you can see every single state, you can see the cards, you can see, what will happen, the sizes, so the small, medium, large, a little bit of explanation. It's actually very great if you have a bigger design team or just a team in general. It's just easier to, if you have new members coming in, just easier to onboard and tell them like, hey, this is our branding, this is what we do, this is, our basically library, and this is how you can use it, this is what you can build with it. So this is one of the versions that you can build. It's what like a playbook library. And then you can have just a normal library, which is very simplistic. And you have just your components, drag and drop, put it here, grab another component, put it there. I even have a little example for you over here. Just jump there as a library example. So this is a library for email design, which is really, really simplistic. Even though it's simplistic, there are already quite a lot of things happening. So as a main molecule, like atoms, you see color in CTAs, and right away it starts building into something bigger. So you see single blocks, you see 2 columns, which are very extensive. You have title, subtitles, copy, multiple buttons. Like, you think of it, you need to create something that is customizable as much as possible, so you can accommodate every single state possible. So dual blocks, columns, different colors, different sizes, different orientations, a lot of different options. But when you actually start designing things, it's actually fairly simple. So you have something like this, and you just drag and drop, and things just go your way. So for example, we already had a title here. Let's just remove it. Let's just put it here. Then, for example, we need something like this and an image. And, we want to divide a line over here. And let's say, so we want, what else do we want? We want, for example, a block with 3 USBs. And let's call it, this is our structure. But then we say like, okay, you know what would be amazing is actually, I don't really like the white look of it. Let's just turn it into black, it just goes like into black and things like that. So what you see here is just multiple different states. that makes your life so much easier. So you don't spend time in recreating every single thing. You just drag and drop, and then just you design. You just make, your structure, and just go with it and just have fun. And here in the Name the Campaigns, we don't want that. We actually want a normal divider line. And there you go, So what you want to do with Design Library is basically create multiple different components that you can reuse, and you just can build on top of it. And this is how, this is basically a design process in a very basic way. But in order to achieve this, you obviously need to invest your time into building it. And this is where most of your time goes. So every single project, once you have the library, will go super smooth, but you will need to spend some time, to creating the library. So yeah, let's just, somebody just give it a second. And as I showed you, once you have the library done, create templates. Like for example, here, these are just a couple of templates for a marketing campaign, for email campaign. And you can use it and just, use it as your backbone for your projects. Another thing that I want to share with you guys, it's actually a plugin called HTML to Design. It's a really amazing plugin. Once you have your library done, this is superb, you already helped yourself with that. This is where you can start having fun. So let's say, what you see here is an example. Everyone loves Apple designs, right? Everyone loves the way how the Apple websites look like. So what we're going to do here, what you're seeing here in the video, is we're just going to steal some of their ideas and some of their structures, and some of their logic by using this super plugin. As you see, it just exported the entire landing page here, and everything is customizable. Everything is changeable as well. So if you want to just play around with copy, you just want to change something, you can do that. You can see on the left side that every single thing is really cleaned up. So I'm going to change the color, it exports the size, the font sizes, it exports basically all the colors, and just, it's very, very customizable. The only thing is what it's not going to do is just not going to create the components. This is where we're going back to initial thing, the design library. If you have that, you basically can reuse this in your process and just speed up the whole thing. So
can I ask a quick question around this plugin? Because I've not used this plugin before. So how do you, is it like for your inspiration? So in terms of, is that how you use it?
Yeah, so I personally use it as inspiration. Sometimes I see, for example, a website with a certain component that I really, really like, or, in order not to spend too much time recreating it, I can literally just export this and just reuse it and just kind of restructure it myself and infuse it into the library myself. So this is one of the ways. And other ways, sometimes we receive things like, from the stakeholders, we really like this web page, can we do something similar to this, for example, as for the brainstorming session. So this helps us to kind of speed up the process. So instead of, just taking a screenshot or starting to recreate things, just export this and just put it here, and we say like, okay, we potentially can use maybe this and this content in this kind of way, or we can do it this and this way, or like this and this structure and things like that. So definitely for, I would say, brainstorming sessions, this helps a lot. So there we go.
So does it also take the size that you use as well? So when you reset your browser, so if it is like mobile version,
I think you can specify, if you can see, you can specify here on the left side, so the viewports, so you can say like, I need it at this, like at 720, for example, and it can grab the mobile version of that. If you'd say 920, so it's just going to grab the desktop version of that. And then if, for example, you say like, oh, this is absolutely, I don't know, for your project, this is absolutely the structure we're going to go for, this is the design we want. Obviously, within Figma, you just need to make sure that design is just more responsive. So you just need to do your own tweaks, design tweaks for that. But if you just want to purely for inspiration or brainstorming, or if you're sitting with a client and then they just want to see live designing session, this is an amazing tool. You just do this, and then you're like, okay, see, you really like this web page from Apple. We'll put it here. This is what how we can adapt, that to your needs, type of stuff. So there we go. Any other questions? Ooh, sorry. I'm in presenting mode, so I can't really see you guys. Right. Then we're gonna go off to the next one. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the AI tools that I actually use a lot in my personal workflow, and they vary all the way from visual tools to web tools to video tools, and obviously to the chatbots. Obviously, Midjourney. Definitely an amazing tool, and I advise everyone to try it. And I think they're still giving away some free accounts. So please feel free to just try the tool, try the art of prompting, try, create the visuals for your projects, because it's a very interesting tool. Of course, it's not there yet in terms of resolution, in terms of, product placement. So if you're a product designer, and as a digital designer, but working with a lot of product imagery, it's not there yet. So you can't really put your own product in the visual and just create something awesome. But if you work together with, Photoshop, this is an amazing tool. So definitely try it. And we save a lot of time. Recently, we worked on a campaign where I think we saved around 6 working days by just using Midjourney, so which was an amazing accomplishment. Another interesting tool for the product photographer called Clade. Basically, if you have a product image, you just want to put it in a lifestyle visual environment, or even create a flat lay shoot as aesthetic. It's perfect. Like, for example, here. The only thing you need to keep in mind is still an AI, so it's still not perfect. We're still not there yet. So, for example, as you see here, this is the original product, and it just kind of does its own thing. So keep those things in mind. It might need some tweaking, but as I said, for a flat lay-esque shoots, aesthetic, it's perfect. You see here, just creating relatively good shadows, and overall creates a really amazing look and feel. Firefly, this is one of the interesting as well. I personally use it for creating visuals like these. So, for example, if this was my sketch, I said like, hey, I just want a visual where it says birthday, but I want it to look like inflated balloons. And there we go here on the right. This is an example of what Firefly creates, which is then, if you want, you can animate every single letter, and then you have a very amazing graphic that you can use on your website or social media or whatever. Now the website creator helpers, another one called Dora AI, and it's available actually as a plugin in Figma. It has, I think, you get only 80 credits, and I think you can only generate like 3 or 4 different web pages. But just for testing purposes, it's a very interesting tool. You already can see how far it goes into, like how far AI what it can do in terms of even web creations. So here I asked it, like on the example that you see over here, I asked it to create a web page for a luxury furniture brand, and this is it. So as you see, in terms of, if we're talking about in terms of user experience and other things, it's still questionable. But in terms of, again, brainstorming, pitching, and other things, it's already a very good, solid tool where you don't need to spend too much time on thinking like, oh, we can show this to our client, or we can show that. This tool already can achieve that, which means it frees up more space and time to actually, make sure that, yeah, the user experience at the end, it will be more on par rather than just kind of overthinking things, like how it should look visually, what can we do, and things like that. Another one that is really interesting as well is the video creations. Sorry, the video creators helpers. Oh my god. The one of them is Pika, and this is recently going viral everywhere. Is you can feed it any image, and for example, this is a prompt where I wanted to inflate it. It's like I want a moon as a balloon. There we go. If you want to crumble, or if you want to deflate something, if you want to squish something. So probably you see those little videos going viral on TikTok, on Instagram. They actually have been made with Pika. So which can be also very useful if you want to pitch some really fun, quick ideas for your client, and you want to use something in your line of work. And of course, Runaway. Runaway's basically a runaway in terms of video creation. So this is just an example with an image, what it can do. So you have a very simple image and just wanted to animate a little bit. Again, it's still AI, it's not going to be perfect, but you can see, the value of this. And of course, if you have your own prompts, if you just want to generate something very simple, I don't know, cat walking, or people talking or something like that for your website, app, or whatsoever, it's actually starting to do even better job at what it does. And of course the chatbots. So obviously, I'm going to talk about a little bit the ChatGPT and Claude, specifically why I'm using Claude, because a lot of people, preferring ChatGPT. ChatGPT, you can brainstorm ideas, you can brainstorm copy, you can brainstorm creative approaches. It's not gonna, don't think it's gonna replace you, because you still need a person who actually gonna, put the input into the chat. I think it's a very useful tool, especially if you're creative and sometimes there are so many different ideas. ChatGPT will help you to make sense out of them. So sometimes it's like, oh, I have this and this idea, and it will help you to sort of make it a bit more coherent. But also you can ask it questions in terms of like, hey, if you are, let's say, so Gen Z, 25 years old, you're interested in this and this. If I show you this, what would be your reaction? What would you think? And it's actually really interesting to get this sort of feedback, because obviously for the UX we conduct a lot of user research. Now you have this kind of a user here that you can ask any question. So apologies. And Claude.
Okay, I must ask one other question. So the difference between ChatGPT and Claude for you?
So for me, I use Claude only to create prompts for Midjourney, because I feel like the way how it creates prompts is just a little bit better than ChatGPT.
Okay.
So in terms of conducting user researches and creative brainstorming, I prefer ChatGPT. And I don't know if any one of you tried, there is a version 1.0. So that one is even more interesting. So it's actually things, like it actually explains you what it did in every single stage. It's like, if you ask it a question, I don't know, can you explain to me what would you do in, I don't know, a circumstance A, B, C? It will actually explain it to you, and also break it down, like how it approached the problem, what did it think about. And as a creative, it's also very interesting, because sometimes you find something not in the answer, but in the way how the other person thinks. you're like, oh, the person tells you like, oh, I'm thinking this way or this way. You're like, oh, right, I didn't even think about it. That's a really interesting approach. So it's another point of view, and this is something that ChatGPT is now allowing, which is insane, to be honest. But yeah, Claude, I would say, is a bit more limited in things, but still, it's a very good chatbot. But I personally just mainly use it for creating different prompts and or polishing the prompts that I've already created. So there we go. And then, yeah, so one of the main takeaways I would say is just, mastering the art of prompting. If you see a prompt that you really like, that actually worked very well for you, take a note, put it like, create a little documents for yourself and be like, okay, this prompt worked really well for, let's say, so for logical point of view, this prompt worked from a creative perspective, this prompt worked, I don't know, if you're working in a journey, oh, I really like the colors, what you did here, or I really like this and that. So just make a note, make a little database, because in the end, if you're working on the other project, those will come really, really handy. So another thing I would like to cover is just little things that I've learned, I would say, so far that helped me during my work process. There's just two things here that I would like to cover. One is just optimizing briefings and communication, and the two, FAQs. So one of the important things are correct briefings and the platform that you use. I would say a lot of time that we waste as creatives is managing stakeholders or not understanding someone correctly, or maybe someone talked to you about it, but you don't remember, and they didn't put it on the email or didn't put it on Slack, Trello, whatever, all the projects. So please always communicate that to those people. It's like, hey, we have one platform, whether it's Jira, whether it's Trello, whatever you prefer, please communicate it there. And in your briefings, so this is an example how we approach the briefings, is what's the project's purpose, what's the project type, what are the channels, is it email, social media, website, mobile, whatever. Please specify what's the strategy, what's the objective, was it brand awareness, is it conversion, is it engagement, so what's the target audience, because it's very important, what are the metrics, what we are focusing on, what are the competitors doing? Is there any relevant trend, that's happening and that we're just going to want to ride the wave, or it's just, different type of projects? Are there different languages? Is it different countries that we are targeting? I'll always specify the workload. Is it like a full design? Is it a review of something? Does it need multi-platform adaptation? There any the asset creation requires, always make sure that there is a clear timeline. So in terms of timelines, what we do, we usually do the check-ins, so the checkpoints, and we go with the stakeholders, making sure that we're still running, on track. And then any supportive documents. So we usually work basically on Trello with teams, and then on teams we have different folders. So of course we have a delivery folder, but we also have a briefing folder. But also I'll always ask our stakeholders to provide us with the basically with any sort of information that can help us in our designing journey. And then of course feedback. All the feedback should be consolidated in one place. It's really easy sometimes to say, okay, I've left some comments here and there, but again, since they're comments, they've already been placed, it's also really easy to ask a stakeholder, this is great, but please make sure it's, on Trello or Jira, where you prefer to communicate. And the reason why is just also to keep your own peace, and if there is some miscommunication happening, you can always say, okay, this and this communication in this way, and we agreed on this and this and this. But it's also easier for you because, you can see everything just in front of you. It's like, this is what needs to be done, this is what I know, and then it's also easy to track for you. So there we go. And another thing, FAQs. So why FAQs matter is because you will have new team members, you will have people from other teams. And trust me, you will get tired of the same questions over and over and over and over. And questions are not necessarily a bad thing. They're actually really great. And to be honest, I've learned lots of different things from people when they were asking me questions, because, you know, sometimes you think like, oh, this is very simple, but they might ask you like such a very simple question. And you're like, wait a minute. Okay, if they're asking me a question, it means that the person who's using our product, or who's using the page, or who looking, you know, at the creation, they might ask the same question, you know, and we need to make sure that it's clear to them as well. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes, you know, there are very simple things like, for example, how to comment on Figma, you know, for example, how would you share this file? So, or how to create this and that. So if you create those FAQs, they help you and help the team to work just more efficiently, and you know, spend time more on optimizing things. And if people have questions, you know, even after a while, then you just basically can schedule a real quick, you know, call or a check-in call. So there we go. I would say those are a few main things. Just you know, keep your mind space protected, and leave it for, you know, for creation of beautiful things. So there we go. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Irina. That was really interesting. And people may have lots of questions, or there may not be any. Has anyone got any questions they want to speak about in person, or do you want me to read out if there's anything in the chat? Or anyone, any thoughts? No?
I have a question on the atomic level for the design system.
Mhm.
You showed as an atom to be a CTA with the font and the shape and the color.
Mhm.
And I find it that within a team, maybe it's not always the same person creating the atoms and the components and all the elements. So it's really hard to know what you leave at the atom level and what you take to the molecule. For example, I know some people would consider the color being an atom, and the font style, and maybe the radius.
Yeah.
And then the whole CTA might be more of a molecule for them. So it's just a really hard, it's hard to judge, depending on people, what you would consider an atom and a molecule for those little elements.
It's a very interesting question. I think maybe it's the best maybe to have a discussion within the team first and say like, hey guys, let's agree on terminology. So what we consider molecules, what we consider atoms, what we consider this and that. And, you know, sort of create the list and then use it as a reference. So if you need to, you know, change something or add something, you basically have this like little reference list, and you're like, oh, okay, so this is now we agree that we call this like a CTA. It's now an atom, or, you know, or molecule, whatever you prefer, and just sort of, you know, start it from there. I think that is the best course of action, because as you said, like, yeah, everyone has different opinions, but as long as you guys agree on something and just kind of sign off on that, that's how you roll from there.
Yeah, cool, thanks.
Vee, would you like to ask your question?
Yay. Irina, thank you so much. This was great. Just following up on that atoms conversation, because I literally had a workshop today with my team and the engineering team to talk about this and define this. And it turned out in our context, and obviously it's very different in different organizations, but we're at the place where we're reevaluating the design system and kind of putting more resource and more effort into it to take it to the next level. But initially, as we're working on it, everybody's calling everything a component, and it's just really confusing, because as designers, we look at it and we're like, this is like a color and a font and space and a grid, and it's just not a component, is it? So we run a little workshop today to try and define some of those and build that common understanding between engineers, because the engineers are on the delivery side of things. So
Yeah.
it was really important to get them involved as well and kind of get a bit of buy-in from there, and rather just say, right, okay, this is what we want to do, and this is how we want to do it. So yeah, atoms, and there's not a clear cut there. It is really, like you said, Irina, I completely agree with you as well. You define with your team and where you think the cutoff is. It's completely up to you. There isn't black and white answer there.
No, exactly. But what you said here, especially involving developers, so I think this is really, really crucial in a designing like in the creation process. I don't like the word design, but just creation process. Just the design team sits down together with the development team, because as you said, like they call it a component,